Okay, so this has completed installation of these two libraries. What I will do is I will run it. Okay, so you were seeing that loading model, right? Because of this show spinner loading model. So now I can see text summarization app. I can enter any text. Let me take some. So when I click this button, as I have written, if st.button summarize, if user input is there, which is this one, then it will call this model and it will display the summary. Okay, star summary and then st.write. Okay, if I make 3 stars, okay, it has become italic. Making sense, guys?
So it will run from top to bottom, right? Every time.
Yes, every time. But for this one, I am using the cache resource. Okay, this we will cover in some time.
Okay.
Okay. Then the last one is like layout one. Okay, let me show you how we can use the layout. So whenever we are creating any application, we have to create some layouts, right? What we want to show in the left, right. This is your layouts. So what I'm saying is column 1 and column 2, st dot columns 2, and then with column 1 st dot right, column 1 content, column 2 content, and I can also create sidebar, which is st dot title sidebar. And so let me, okay, so this is content 1 and content 2. Okay, let me maximize. So what I did was I have divided my screen into two different columns, column 1 and column 2. Okay, I can divide it into 3 columns as well. And then in the first column, I'm writing as column 1 content, and then, or maybe what I can do, I can also change the width of these columns, right? So I think if I want to give 1/3 to the first column and 2/3 to the second column, I can write it like 1, 2. Okay, let me comment out this code. It has some error. I think this has to be like this one. Okay, always rerun. Okay, so now this column 1 and the column 2 are created, but they have different widths. Okay, so this is one part it is taking and it is having 2 parts of the full screen. Making sense? Let's say I write 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and then I write 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. You can see that, right? The second column can actually accommodate all the twos because it has more width than the column 1. Okay, so this is how we can create actually the different columns. And other than that, this is st.sidebar.title. So when you say st.sidebar, what it will do is it will create this sidebar. Okay, this panel basically. So st.sidebar and then the title, and then I have created this button in the sidebar also. st.sidebar.button.click here. There is also something called as st.sidebar.expander. Expander. Okay. So what this will do, it will create one where it is. st.sidebar.expander. It is not showing the expander. I don't know why this is not working. It's not displaying it actually. Click here to expand. Okay. So anyway, I will show you this sometime later. So these are the different widgets actually, which you can use to create some small components, okay, on the screen. All good. Now we will move towards the other topic, which is like this we have covered, this we have covered, chat components. Okay, so there is something called, as I said, they have introduced the chat components, which are very useful when we are creating chat applications. So let's have a look on that. Let me create another py file, 2.py. Okay, so what are those chat components? They are like taking input from the user, st.chat input, and when we need to display the output, that is st.chat message. Okay, so let me put down the code. So this is my uh, code. What I'm doing is, let me explain you. Super. So I'm importing Streamlit as st, and then what I'm doing is I'm creating a session state variable, which is messages. Okay, this we will see in the detail also. So if message is not in session.state, that means if this message is not there in the session state. Okay, session state basically has lot of key value pairs, lot of dictionary elements. So it is saying if there is no key like messages, if message is not in session.state, if there is no dictionary key with the name messages, it will create one with the empty list. Okay, first it is checking and then it is creating. Basically, we are initializing it. And then what we are doing is for message in st.state.messages, if message role is user, then we will use this chat message. Okay, so we are primarily here, we are studying two main widgets, which is st.chat input and the other is st.chat underscore message. Okay, so this is being used to take input from the user and this is to show the output to the user. Okay, this is to display the message and this is to take the input. So what we are doing here is we we are checking if there are messages already in this messages object. We are iterating through all those messages, and if you have message and these messages will, okay, let me show you actually how these messages look like. Yeah, role and content. Okay, this we have already seen, guys, how we can create different messages, list of messages. So this is bot. Let me make it assistant. Even bot will work. And let me make it user. Okay, hello, how can I help you? Content, I am a simple. Okay, so let me comment this one out. So this is my 4.py. So what you can see, what I'm doing here is first I'm initializing my session state with the messages. Okay, so if there is no messages, I'm intentionally putting these two messages. One is the assistant message, other is the user message. Okay, so this is the role. This is again a dictionary also. So first of all, session state has the dictionary. It's itself is a dictionary. It will have lot of key value pairs, like messages is one key. We can have name of the user as the second key. We can have the API key as the third key, and it will have its subsequent values also. So messages is one key. In the value, its value is actually a list of different values. Okay, so it's a list type of key. It has a list of messages, and each message in itself is also a dictionary. Each individual message is a dictionary with two keys. One is the role and other is the content. So if the role is assistant, I'm just adding two messages here. The first message is for the assistant and the second for the user. Okay, and what I'm doing is here is if there are messages in the session state, I'm iterating through and I am displaying those messages. Okay, if the message is uh, of the role user, then I will use st.chat message user.markdown. If else, st.chat message AI markdown the content. Okay, and this is the output. Okay, this is my system. Hello, how I can help you? And this is one icon will be shown. So this give you some chat-like feeling, right? So it creates these icons for the users. So this is the user. I am a simple who is interacting with the application, and this is our LLM application assistant. Is that clear, guys?
Yes, Surendra.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I will do is, so initially what we do is we just create an empty, right? We have no messages. We are just initializing our variable dictionary. So if there is message, then it will initialize, and then for each message, it will iterate through and it will display those messages. Now what we are doing here, so we have seen how we can use this st.chat message, okay, chat message to display messages to user, and chat input is to take input from user. Okay, so far we have not taken any input from the user, right? For that, what we are doing is we will create one st.chat input, type your message here. So whatever you write in this particular bracket as the first parameter, it will be shown to the user. Okay, type your message here. This we can customize. Okay, and then we are saying when the user is putting any message or he's asking any question, we are checking if that user input has some value or it is not equal to null. st.chat message, again the chat message to display whatever he has asked. Okay, and then we are at the same time we are adding that those messages into our session state. Okay, so that we can store it. Because each time we click any button, the script is run from top to bottom. Okay, and then bot response. This bot response, for the time being, I have just, uh, it's in order to mimic the LLM, I'm just putting echo user input. So whatever user will input, it will just echo that. Okay. Gradually, what we will do is we will replace this one with the call to our large language model, where we will be sending the question of the user to the LLM. And then we will capture the response from the LLM and we will again display it on the user screen. st.chat message from the AI, and whatever is the response. And finally, we will also store that message in the session state. Okay, so that we don't lose it. Next time when there is a button or anything, when the user is typing the message also, this script will be rerun. And since we are storing these messages in the messages key, what will happen when it will first check, when it will rerun from top to bottom, it will check if there is a messages. Yes, there are messages because we have stored them. So what it will do is it will display all those messages on the screen. Okay, so let me show you how this looks like on the screen. Okay, so right now this is empty. Empty because why? Empty because we are initializing it with null. There is no message, nothing to display. This is empty right now. It is just asking for user input and type your message here. Okay, type your message here. So when I say hello or hi, my LLM will respond as hi. Okay, this is my mimicked, or we just emulated the large language model. So the response from the AI is hi. When I say hello, what will happen? It will still show these two messages because we are storing that in the session state. Okay. Hello 3. So it will display all those messages. Making sense? If I don't do that, let me remove my session state. Let me remove. So in the Google Colab, we have seen how we can use the messages list, right? In order to store our messages. Yes. And we were using that messages list in order to store the history, all the historical messages. But here in this Streamlit, we cannot do that. So let me try doing that. If I remove my session state, let me remove everything. st dot. If I replace this by empty, and if I run my application again, when I say hi, it will say hi. When I say hello, my earlier messages are gone. So you understood the behavior?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So they have gone because when I'm typing or giving any message, let's say hello 3, my entire script will run from top to bottom. And when it will run from top to bottom, the first thing it will do is it will make messages as empty. So there is nothing to display. The only thing it will display is the user message and the response. Okay. When I say hello 3, it will erase the earlier and it will just show. Okay. So well, the motive of this module is that we can use Streamlit chat input and chat message in order to take input from the user and to show the message to the user.
But we didn't added any model here, right? So taking that input and
Yeah.
provide the
So
response.
yeah, I mean, right now we are just mimicking as if we are calling any LLM, but we will gradually replace that with the
Yeah,
model.
and here, whatever the first the user is going to be entered the message, we are going to be considered that one as that we assign that one as the user role. So the subsequent messages it is going to be taking as the AI. So
AI.
which is 9 to 13. It is going to be we are distributing we are differentiate that roles, right?
Yes. So whenever user is typing any message, we are saving it as an user message
User.
in my memory, in my state,
Yeah.
sorry, user. And then whatever I am getting as a response, I am explicitly saying that this is an AI response and the actual content of the response. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that when
Yeah.
I iterate the message, I am actually comparing if it is a role is a user then I will show that user icon. And if it is AI, then I will show it AI. Okay. All right. So that was on the uh, chat components. Now there is one more thing which is like streaming component. Okay. So right now what will happen is whatever reply I will get from large language model, that will be displayed in one go. But what I want is I need to add that streaming functionality where each word, when it is being generated from the LLM, it should be shown to the user one by one, tuck, 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 tuck. Okay. So for that, again, there is one component which is st dot write stream. So let me use that, or maybe I will go directly here. Okay. So what I have done here is, or let me make, that's fine. So what I'm doing is I have written one response here, one function. So what this function is doing, generate response whenever it get any user input. So again, I am trying to emulate my LLM. Okay. So right now I am not calling the actual LLM, but I am trying to mimic what it does in actual. So this function will produce the tokens or the response word by word. Okay. So it is taking some input and the response, let's say from the LLM is Jodhpur is the second largest company and blah, blah, blah. So whatever this response is, for every token in response, I'm splitting it by space, and then there is a time sleep, and then I'm using this yield function, which will generate the response in word by word. So when I call this function, it will first send me Jodhpur, then after 0.01 second, it will send is the second largest city, like that. Okay, so here I am just trying to replicate what LLM does in actual. Make sense? So this function will generate response in word by word instead of giving this entire sentence as the response. That's why we have used this function yield. So now, so the user input, I am taking the user input and checking whether it's null or not. If there is a value entered, I'm doing the same thing. I'm displaying it on the screen. At the same time, I'm saving it on the session state. And then when it comes to the AI, what I need to do is with st.chatMessage AI, I am calling this function with my user input. Okay, whatever question the user asks is, that question is to be passed to this particular function. So I am calling this function, and whatever response, word by word response I am getting, I am collecting that in response generator. And that response generator is being given to this widget, which is our area of interest, st.writeStream response generator. Okay, so that this will accept those word by word input, and then it will show on the bot st.writeStream. It will write those word by word on the our interface. Finally, what will happen once the answer is yielded completely, the response has been sent completely word by word, I'm also collecting the entire response in my response object, and then I will storing that as a in my session state. Is it making sense, guys? Okay, let me show you so that it will make more sense. I'm showing you everything step by step so that it make complete sense for you guys. So when I run this particular, okay, so when I say hi, okay, what will happen when I say hi? It will be my user input will be sent as an hi to my function, but I'm not using this input. I have just hard coded my long response because we need to show that yielding, right? That streaming we have to show. So when I say hi, it will start sending this as a response. Jodhpur is the response, right? Token by token. It will split it and send it. So when I say hi, see, it is streamed, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that was on streaming. Shubham, it is making sense, right? Since you were already working on it, doing something on Streamlit.
Yes. Yes, just I had a
Hmm.
doubt. Like in ChatGPT also they are using same
Yeah, yeah.
Streamlit
Yes, yes. I mean, they are not using Streamlit, but the idea is exactly same.
streaming.
Hmm. Since we are developing our custom applications, we also need to show that streaming on the user interface, right? So
Yes.
Streamlit provides this functionality, which is Streamlit dot write stream.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was one thing. The other thing is the data flow, which I think we have already discussed partially. Okay. So chat message, streaming chat. Let me iterate this one more time. Okay, so what we are saying is Streamlit application rerun the entire Python script from top to bottom whenever a user interacts with the interface. This includes the actions like clicking on a user interface widget, changing the value of an input field. Right? We have seen, right? Whenever we type, when the user type its new message, the entire script runs from top to bottom, and it will basically erase all those things which we have been done earlier, right? If we click a button, even that click of the button will make it to run from top to bottom. For example, this is another example on the screen. So what we are doing is we have a function called fetch data from API. What it is doing is this is the API URL, this is the request, okay, and then it sends some response. So we are calling that, we are fetching that data and we are storing it in the API data. And if it API data is there, we are showing it on the application. Okay. So in this
दुकान पे
particular
मीट वो चल रही है मेरे कॉल चल रही है और सेविंग कराया है
in this particular case, in this particular case, if you have some button right here, or if the user is interacting with the application, what will happen is this will rerun, right? It will start from the top, and when it will say I need to call this particular function, it will again hit this particular URL. Again, it will hit. So that may have some impact. Okay. So what it will lead? We are calling the same API again and again. So that may incur the cost, number one. Number two, it will delay or my application will become slow. And number three, my resources will be unnecessarily be used. Okay, this behavior can lead to performance issues, making unnecessary API calls, re-executing computationally intensive operations. So in order to address this particular application, this particular issue, we have something called as the session state and session cache. Okay, so which we are going to study now. All right. So coming to the session state, what is the session state? So we just use it, right? And we have experienced how we can use the session state. Session state is a feature that let you save variables, whatever data which is there with you. If you want to save that data and you don't want your, to lose those data which are specific to your session, to your user, then what we can do is we can store those things in your session state. Okay, so that they are not lost when the user is doing anything on the screen. So technically, what is the session state? It's a Python dictionary. Okay, it behaves like a Python dictionary, making it easy to store and retrieve the data. So coming back to the last example, we had some issue. This API was called invoked again and again whenever the user interacts with the application. So what I am doing is now I am saving. If API data not in session state, I will just call this one time and I will store the output in my session state in my key API underscore data. Okay, it's a dictionary. So this is my key, and whatever value I will get from invoke of my function, that will be stored as a value. So next time when it will run, what will happen? It will come directly here. It will see, is it there in the session state? Not in session state. It will say, no, it's already there. So it will skip executing this particular line because it's already there in the session state. So what it will do is it will directly write that particular data on the screen. So it will not recall this function again and again because we have saved it in our session state. Does that make sense? So that helps to persist our data across reruns. Key characteristics: user specific. First of all, this is user specific, right? And then the users specific, whatever data which is specific to a user or specific to a particular session of the user, that we usually store in the session state. And whenever there are reruns, persistent across reruns, values stored in the session state are retained even when the Streamlit application reruns. And the third is suitable for UI related data. It's particularly useful for storing information related to the user interface, such as user inputs, selections, or state of the UI element. I hope that makes things clear. So let me see what code I have. Session state. This we have actually already seen, okay, in our chat components in detail. So what I'm doing is, this is just messages. So we will lose our data. We are not using session state. Let me rerun. When I say hi, when I say hello, my earlier response is gone. So what I need to do, I need to use the session state, which we did in the chat components. Okay, I will save everything in my session state. I hope this is clear, guys. Yes, no, please, please.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, it's clear.
Yeah, thanks. So the next is the callback functions. Okay, so can we take 2 minutes break, guys? Just 2 minutes. You guys also can relax, and then we will.
Yes,
Of
yes.
course.
All right. So we will be. So this is 12:16. Let's come back at 12:20. Okay, 4 minutes break.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, hello.
Yes, Surendra.
Let's start then. I hope
I
everyone
think
is
so. I am
back.
not back.
Mm-hmm. So the another thing with the session state is callback. Okay. So what are callbacks are? These are basically functions. So if you want to call any function when you are actually doing some event, okay, some events like on change, on click event, on change event, on submit event. So there are certain widgets which actually can call some functions which are called as the callback functions on the occurrence of these events. Okay. So but they are specific to some widgets. Not all widgets will be can trigger some functions with the help of these events. So there are some specific widgets which on occurrence of these events, like when the user is clicking something, he is changing something, he is submitting something, if these events are occurring, and then what I can do is I can also call another function, okay, which allows you to trigger a specific code when a widget is interacted with. For example, you can update session state when a button is clicked. Okay, let's see this in code actually. So in the earlier code, what we were doing is when the user was giving some input, right? He was writing something. What I was doing is I was checking whether user has given some input, and then I was taking some action. So what essentially I can do is I can put this code, and I can put this code in some other function, and I can add here the callback function. Okay, so that whenever the user submit anything in my chat input widget, it will call this particular function. Okay, so let's see this here. Okay, so what I have done is I have defined one function which is handle user input. Okay, so whatever operation I was doing after this line, now I'm doing pretty much same thing, but inside another function. User input, if user input, then I'm storing them in the session state. Okay, there is another operation. I am as a response, instead of that echo response, I am just reversing whatever text the user is giving input. And once I define my function, when I write st.chat input your message, okay, on submit, this is that event which I was talking about. There are a couple of events. So when the user is submitting his input, what I need to do is I need to call this particular function. Okay, let me run. So this will exactly look same as our earlier application, but this is the way to write, a different way to write or call that piece of lines. Okay, so I need not to store the output somewhere, right? So here I was doing is I was storing this in the user input, and then I was comparing it. I can simply write st.write input, and when the user gives something, I'm using this callback function. In the arguments I'm passing on submit, call this function. Okay, so this is a nicer way, and but the functionality is almost same. So let me run this one. So what it will do, it will show OLLEH because I have uh, made that operation as a response. Okay, so it will just reverse the letters, nothing else. So the functionality is, I mean pretty much same, right? Only thing is I'm using this particular callback function this time. Okay, there is another thing which is like key. Let's say, so at this point I am not actually storing my user input, isn't it? Earlier, what I was doing is I was storing the user, whatever user was typing in the user input variable. But in this case, I am actually not storing it. Rather, I am directly calling and this function. But then how this function will come to know what is the value being entered by user? So that's where what we do is we use another argument which is key. When I say key equal to user input, then what it will do is it will automatically save whatever user entered in this particular key. Okay, and then I can access this key. Not only it will store the user input in the key, but it will do another thing which is very important. It will store that user input in my session state as well. Okay, so it has automated couple of things. Now I need not to explicitly save this in the state. So here you can see in my function, what I am doing is I'm pulling this value from session state. st.session state user input. If user input has some value, then we are displaying it. Okay, so this is happening because we are using this syntax key equal to user input. Okay, or maybe what I will do is I can just if I stop calling this function, st.chat input. So it is showing none here, right? This is showing none because I have not saved any value. I have not put any value in my chat input. Okay, so but this is there. This variable has been created inside my session state. This dictionary element has been created, and right now the value is none. Okay, so you can see on the screen none. So if I say hi, what it will do is it has stored that value in the session key. Hi, automatically. So I'm not initializing or adding, just like I was doing for messages, right? I was initializing messages and then I was appending the values explicitly. Is it making sense? The use of callback functions and the use of key argument. Okay. Now the last thing is my Streamlit cache. Okay. So we encountered that we have some issue in this Streamlit applications that it reruns. Okay. So the solution was to use Streamlit session state, which is used to store the session related things or the user specific things in the session state. We need to explicitly make the data persistent. There is another similar thing which is called as the Streamlit cache. Okay, so what this cache will do is basically if we have multiple users, okay, and if we have multiple sessions, and if we want to save something at the application level, or if there are objects or variables which are useful to all the users, then instead of calling that particular API again and again, what we will do is we will, if one user has called that particular application or that API, whatever object which is being returned, it is saved in the cache so that in fact other user can also use it. Okay. So that's the difference between in the session state, we are saving only user related things and that remains valid in the user session itself. But here, whatever we are saving in the cache, that will remain same across the sessions by different users. So this is something at the application level, application cache. Okay, so this is again of two types. One is cache data and other is the cache resource. Let me show you by code What does I mean? So mm, so in this code, what I'm doing, I'm using cache data. Let's me comment this one. So what I'm doing, I have this function which is fetch data. I'm passing this URL, and then what it is doing is it is sending some GET request to this URL. It waits for 5 seconds and then return the response. Okay, and that response I am displaying on the screen with the help of write, and I'm also showing the image, and then there is a button which is called reload page. So whenever I click on this reload page, what will happen? Can anyone tell? If I click on this button which is named reload page, what will happen? Koti, what will happen?
It will just print, I think.
It will just rerun the entire application again, right? From top to bottom.
No.
It will again call this particular function and it will hit the API. Okay, so let me run it. Control C. This time I need to run 9_cache. Spelling has become chache instead of cache. Okay. So this is showing me the picture of a dog, random dog image. And this is the JSON. With JSON, ht.write data. So whatever response I have got, this response I got message, the image path, and the status as success. So this is displaying that response in the JSON format, and we are also displaying the image also. From that data, we are getting the message and the caption. Okay. So what will happen when I click on this reload page? It will start running. It will call my API again. It will get me a new image, right? When I reload this page again, click on this button. Okay. So this page is this button is not reloading. It can be anything, right? Reload can show some text here, but the idea is if when the user is interacting with the application, he is doing any operation on the screen, the code reruns from top to bottom. So it is taking 5 seconds every time it is calling that particular API. So my solution is, what I will do is I will put this annotation which is @session st.cache data. Okay, so with this particular instruction, what my Streamlit will do, it will cache the response of this particular application. Okay, so it will first come here. It will see, okay, I need to call this function. This is my API, and then it will go and execute. And then whatever response which is being returned, that will be saved in the cache. Okay, let me run this again. But next time when it will call, next time when we run this button, when we click this button, it will come here. It will see, okay, he is calling again the same URI, the same URL with the same parameters and the same method. And this is already being annotated by cache data. So instead of calling this API again, it will go in the cache, it will search if this image exists. If it is there, it will pull from there and it will show it to the user instead of calling this again and again. So let me go here, reload. Ashish is scratching on the screen. Okay, so this is my image. Now if I click on reload, So it is doing nothing, right? So you cannot see that run page and the image remains same. Okay. It will not invoke that API again and again. Even if I try this one in the new tab, as I said, this remains same across the users. Okay. This will be same because this is at a application level. Does it make sense, guys? So whenever we see anything which is particularly interest of all the users, I can save it in the cache so that I'm not hitting that URL again and again. I'm not calling that API, whatever I am doing, right? So that operation is not done. Let's say I have this stock market application. Since the data will remain same for all the users, right? So it's not like that the stock price for Tata Motors is something for me and something for other user. They are not user specific. The stock price of Tata Motor is same for all the users. So what I can do is I can save that value which is being returned by my API in some application cache so that all the users can get the value from the cache instead of hitting that API again and again. Maybe I can say, maybe let's say after every 60 seconds that value should be refreshed. For that we have one parameter which is TTL. Okay, I can define that parameter in the function itself, saying that this cache should be purged after every 60 seconds or maybe 600 seconds or whatever, based on my application. Okay, so this is how I can make use of cache to save the cost or redundant calls to something. There is another thing, how to erase this one. Yeah, what is this? Okay, other thing is, so that this is one way, right, which is cache data. What is other way? Other is your cache resource. So we'll see what is the difference. The problem is still same. The problem is that when I have commented this cache resource. So this is a function, this is a class which is being defined, AI model, and we have this function. Whenever you create instance of this AI model, this function will be triggered, and it has one another function which is predict, and this is the load model. It will make instance of this class and it will return. Okay, so what I'm doing is model equal to load model. I'm calling this function which will create an instance of AI model. So if there is some value in the model, I will write model loaded and there is a button. So let me rerun. Model loaded. Okay, when I say reload again, it will take same amount of
मंदिर में
time
जाओगे तो सॉक्स बाहर ही और जूते पहन
because it will
पहन लो एक और
okay.
कीचड़
So this is reload. So in order to get rid of this, again, I will do same thing. I will just put this annotation, which is cache resource, and it will also show this spinner loading model, and it will save it will see whether the model is already there in the cache. If it is there, instead of hitting the loaded model. So now if you click, it will not load it again and again because it has saved that particular object instance of that class. आ रहा है समझ में? I mean, I hope this is making sense. So, but then what is the difference between these two? Why we are using two type of annotations?
Yes.
Okay. So the reason is the cache data is used for the data which is serializable. Okay. For example, we have anything like string, we have like JSON, because what Streamlit does is when it sees this cache underscore data, it will create a copy of that particular response which is being given by that function. Okay, so we write this annotation on top of a function. So whatever response that function returns, it creates a copy of that function and saves in the memory. Use this for functions that return serializable objects. It copies and serializes the returned value, storing it in the cache. Ideal for API calls where the data is same for all the users. Okay, so whenever the response is something like string or JSON or something which can be serialized, for those functions we use cache data. But if we have certain things like, if we have non-serializable objects like machine learning models or database connections, what it will do is it cannot create a copy, rather it has to save the object itself, because that object value can be altered in the code also, right? So whatever Streamlit application we have, there can be some code which can change the value of that object. So in that sense, it is not serializable. So we have to keep the exact same copy. In that cases, we use cache resource. Okay, for example, we have seen that we were creating the instance of the class of the AI model. So for these such objects or some database connections, we have to use cache resource. Okay, that's the only difference. So we need to be vigilant about that. Okay, otherwise the purpose is same, the benefit is same. Make sense? Or let me see if I have
अरे यार
when to
बच्चे बहुत है मम्मी.
use. Caching is beneficial when you have functions that perform expensive computations or API calls, return the same value for the same input, have deterministic outputs, are not dependent on user specific data, are not affected by changes in the user interface. Okay, but then there is another question, like, how does they know whether the how does they save the value, right? So I mean, they internally keep some hash tables where they store. What does they store? They store actually this particular thing, which is like, what is the input parameter. If the input parameter to the function which is annotated, if that remains same, okay, and the line of code in the function also remain the same, then it will fetch the value from the cache. If you are changing the parameter, that means user is calling that function with some different parameter, then I cannot pull the value from the cache. So it keep a track of the arguments with which we are calling that function, and also the code, the line of codes, right? If someone changes in this code, then obviously we want that code to rerun, right? So it maintains all those things in some hash table. Okay. And lastly, as I was saying, there is something called as TTL. Okay. So let me see. So how it is being used? We can use it something like, where is my annotation? In my function, I can write something like TTL is 3600. This is nothing but this is time to live. So if I'm saving my responses in cache, how long they will remain valid. After that, after this time has passed, they will be purged, and one fresh call will be done to the what you call my API. There's another thing which is like maximum entries. Okay, so I can also define maximum entry. How many entries I want uh, to store, number of entries, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, right? So this will limit basically the number of elements which are there in the cache. This is actually not here. It should be here. Yes, both these should be here actually. Okay. ठीक है? These are properties of the cache. So that is all from Streamlit. Now what you need to do is whatever applications you have built so far using your Google Colab or even on the VS Code, now you have to convert that application in the UI form. You have to create a user interface for your code. Okay, so that is your assignment. So how you will do? Very simple. You already have that code which is creating chain and which is invoking chain. And when we invoke the chain, we write chain dot invoke, and then we give some input text. So that text will be coming from our chat input widget. Okay, you have to write, you have to create that user interface, and then you have to create your chat input, right? This one, this chat input, and whatever the message is user sending, you have to send it. You have to write one function which is like call LLM or get response from LLM. So that function will have everything like, how you create chain, how you invoke chain, but the text which is being provided as an input to chain.invoke will be coming from the user input. Okay, you can use that key and you can call that function, and then again whatever response you get, you should show it on the screen. Can you do it, guys? Can all of you show me the screen in the next class?
Yes, Surendra.
So before wrapping up the call, I will show something which I was working.
Sure, Surendra. We'll, get to design everything and we'll show it to you in the next class.
Great, great. You are visiting temples and
That's true.
code assist. एक second. Where is my projects? Just a second. I hope you can see the VS Code.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the project which I was working on. Not sure if it is still working. Let me activate the environment. venv2 scripts. Sorry. Activated my environment. Let me run. I will delete this file. Okay, so this is that Streamlit application. So these are actually expanders. I am not sure why it was not working in our application. Let me check. st dot expander. st dot sidebar dot expander. I mean, it is same. I don't know. So you can try it. Okay. So creating subheaders, creating expanders. In the expander, I am writing user configuration. Within the expander, I am writing select box, select your team. Okay. So like that, you can design your UIs very nicely. So let me come back. So this is my side pane. Okay. Sidebar. Within that, I have created this configuration setting, and then I have created these expanders. So when I click on that, it will show me a couple of more options, like select your team. What is your team? This is my team. What is your name? And then for large language model configurations, I have it again, whether you want to call OpenAI, whether you want to call local LLM. Local LLM means the large language model which is deployed on my laptop. So I can deploy the models on the local machines also. So if I select on that, it will ask me APIs keys, which model I'm calling. I'm calling Llama 3.2. This is my embedding models. I can save my credentials. Okay. So, and based on my inputs, what it will do is it will initialize my model. Since it is this model is running on my local machine, it is taking time. Okay, on the main screen, you can see I have a couple of options like generate SQL query or Python query, how many iterations I want to do, couple of things like reflection, whatever query my LLM generate, do I want to check its logic? Okay, so those things are here. So when I select my database, it has opened this prompt. Okay, so I can ask questions and then it can reply. So I mean, this is just to show what all we can do, with the Streamlit with very less effort. Okay, you can put logos and things like that. Okay, so you can try to build similar application. You can put some logo, you can put some heading, and then your whatever user will ask, you have to capture that input, you have to send it to your large language model. The response again you have to show, and how to store all those messages we have seen, we have to use session state. Okay, in the Google Colab we were using simple list, but then here we have to use session state so that those conversations can be stored in the session state. Okay, if you have any questions, any problem, you can ask during the week also. Just send me a message on WhatsApp and then we can discuss. Okay, guys. Anyone has any question? Prashant, going good?
Yes, yes, Surendra.
Yeah. Ashish, Jan, Ashish
See,
Tomar.
your questions are not there as of now, but yes, the hope is there. That,
Mm-hmm.
this would resolve our problem, motive.
Exactly,
Why
exactly.
we are
Now, yes,
aligned with
yes.
this scenarios.
Course, right. Yeah,
So
I mean,
confidence is there.
exactly. So, I mean, this is what which is going on in the real industry also, even where you are working in the companies I am working. So you have to build such POCs with the help of Streamlit, and then you can, go to your stakeholders and show your capability.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes, yes. So it is actually, we are about to feel the connectivity, the real
Right.
scenarios, what we see like a chatbot and all. So we can also, design some kind of solutions in our career
Exactly.
growth. So
So
that would really
now
help.
next we will start RAG, which is one of the most important topic of this entire course. Okay, retrieval augmented generation. RAG, and then we will see advanced RAG, and then we will cover agents. Okay, so don't miss the next session. RAG, that's the most important thing, and we will discuss how we can take our own data and then we can vectorize it, we can put it in the vector store, and how we can create these chatbots uh, on top of that. Okay, on our own data. Okay.
Sure, Saran, sure. And how many sessions, are we in the middle of this
Exactly. I think
entire
out of
curriculum?
yes, yes. I mean, out of 12, we have covered 6 sessions. Okay, so
Oh,
we have
great.
completed 50% of the course. Although this 50%
Mhm.
was more like a building blocks and the basics. Now the real challenge will start. Okay.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Thank you.
Chalo, I mean, if you don't have any further questions, anyone, so let's close the call and see you next week. If you want to schedule a doubt session, that also I can do. Do let me know, guys. Okay, if you have any questions or doubt or
Sure.
separate session.
Sure.
And Shubham,
We can plan something, Saran, on Thursday, I think, in the middle of week, if we have something.
Okay,
So,
okay.
so
I
that
think
you would be.
anything. Got it. So you will get some time, 3-4 days to revisit this session, and then if you have any doubts, maybe we can connect on Thursday. But see, guys, everything depends on you. If you have to take the initiative, you have to tell me when you want to meet. If you have doubts, okay. So I can align
Sure.
myself according to that. So Shubham, send me those files, okay, the code
Okay.
files, and then
I will send you the entire folder so you can run
send
also
me the
in
entire
VS Code.
folder,
Yeah.
and then whatever error you are getting, that also. Okay, I will have a look.
Sure. Can you send your email ID?
Yeah. You can send me on email. Gen AI cohort.
Can you send in chat?
Okay, I will just send that. All right, guys. Enjoy your rest of the weekend. See you next week. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
Yeah,
everyone.
thanks,
Bye.
Sundar.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
What are the questions?